Hello and welcome to another episode of Leaders of Transformation. Today we're going to talk with Jennifer Weber. She is an author, a spiritual guide, and a life coach. She's actually here to show us how to tap into our inner guidance and so that we can go more fearlessly through our lives, make a greater impact in the world, and really know that we are guided every step of the way. She's got a wonderful book that has that she's written that is going to be coming out in June of this year. It's called Always and Forever With You. And I'm really excited to have her here on the show. And a shout out to Debbie Dashinger, who introduced us. So thank you, Debbie. Debbie always sends me amazing, amazing guests. And Jennifer's no exception to that. So Jennifer, welcome to Leaders of Transformation.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to have this conversation.
Yes, me too. Well, and we resonated so well when we were talking previously about this idea of who God is, our perception of this, where does this inner guidance come from, creating miracles. A number of years back, I did a retreat. I kind of accidentally backed into it where I was helping to do this women's retreat with someone, and I was actually helping her do it, and then I end up having to do it. It's a whole story in itself, but it was actually called Self-Love and Miracles. And this idea of loving yourself, valuing yourself, and creating these miracles in your life. How do you do that? What is that? What does it take to create that? So we're gonna have some fun. I'm really looking forward to that. Now, before we go any further, I want to also welcome our listeners and, of course, our viewers as well. If you're watching on video, we're excited that you're here because the Leaders of Transformation is for you. I love to have great conversations with people, but I love recording them so I can share them with you so that you can realize that, you know what, you are capable of being a difference maker as well. You have a story to share and we want you to share it. So I encourage you go on Facebook and you can actually post if you're doing something that you want to share, a way that you're making an impact in the world. You are welcome to share that information on our Facebook page, Leaders of Transformation. You can also reach out to us and share your story. And we get a lot of requests for guests, but we'd love to hear your story. And hopefully there's an opportunity. We may even have you on the show sharing your story. So that's one thing. Second thing I do want to share is I'm also celebrating the fact that I am now an author, which I'm really excited about.
Congratulations.
Book came out a little while ago, and it is called Power Up Superwomen, and it is a book. It's so funny. I really, people for years said to me, oh, you should focus on women entrepreneurs and focus on a women audience. And I'm like, no. And it's so funny how it keeps coming back. I told you about the retreat with these ladies, and then I'm writing a book about women's empowerment, and it just keeps coming back to this subject. But my chapter is on worthiness from within, and there's just so many wonderful stories in this book, women that have gone through great difficulty and overcome those difficulties, whether it be in relationships, in their health, in their businesses, in their careers, and they've overcome them, and they share those stories. So if you're interested in a copy of that, you can go to leadersoftransformation.com/resources. And the book is available there. So coming back to Jennifer. So I mentioned about your book, Always and Forever With You. What's the premise of the book and how did that come to be for you?
Sure. Yeah, I feel like the book was always waiting to come out, and it was just part of my life, my soul, and things and events took place and shaped the book as it was being written. And I think that's always the case with authors. Things come in and experience occur, and it's just always the right timing. When it came to completion, it was pretty amazing, the stories that came through while it was being written. And they were miracles. So I wrote the book really because I went through a really difficult time in my life. There were several, times where there were some major bumps in the road that were difficult, and particularly in marriage. That was very painful process of trying to figure out how to make my way out of something that was very painful. And I couldn't figure it out. I was a stay-at-home mom. I didn't have the money. And I got to my breaking point. I finally reached the point where I said, okay, you know what? I can't do this on my own. I need your help. I surrendered. I was really actually yelling at God at that point. It wasn't a sweet conversation at all. And I said, what do you want from me? And, you know what? I give you my life. I surrender. I hand it over to you. I can't do this on my own. It's not working. And from that point forward, things shifted in a huge way where I really, really saw that God was always there. I just wasn't listening, and that I needed to bring him in, and I needed to ask for help. And it wasn't like I could just do it all on my own and I could just charge forth. He came in, he co-created, he made miracles, he made things happen that I could not have made happen on my own. And from that point forward, I realized that this is how it works. I don't need to go through that much pain to make changes. And I also realized that it could be really beautiful once I listen and just start following that guidance in a blind faith sort of way. Listen, do, and then what you want and desire and hope for, and beyond that begins to unfold. Yeah. So I wanted to share that. I wanted to share what that looks like. And I wanted to share the beauty and love that's already there in us, just that we need to tap into it and know how to do that and live in that way. Yeah. It's very powerful in a beautiful, loving way for us and for everybody around us.
Well, I read your book, and I love that you're so vulnerable and honest in terms of your own journey and struggle in your marriage, and all the things that happened around that, and your transition, your transformation into really embracing that. I think that I've heard people say, and I know for myself sometimes, it's like, well, I'm not hearing God, right? Like he's not talking to me, or, I'm all on my own in this. Yeah. And then I realized that it's not that he's not talking, and he talks to us all the time. Mm-hmm. It's that we're not listening. And you just mentioned that. It's like, we're not listening. We're not even open to hearing. Sometimes the noise, the inner dialogue is so noisy, or we're so impatient, or we're so looking for answers in a certain way. I remember when I was in my mid-20s and I'd say, God, bless me in this business. Like, why are you not blessing me? And he's like, stop telling me where to bless you. If you would just be open, I could open some amazing doors for you and, and surprise you in wonderful ways.
Yeah.
But don't try to tell me what to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes the answer isn't necessarily no. Sometimes the answer is not right now.
Yes.
Unfolding.
Or not here. Or not this person.
Right. Yeah. The unfolding of things is a miracle in and of itself, because things are happening to kind of coincide to a right time and moment. And, I have been there many times over where I'm like, no, I want it now, and it's just, why isn't it happening? And why is it so hard? And that surrender is a big part of it. And that's that quiet, having some quiet. And that is really where we can allow ourselves to take a moment, take a breath, and really hear our own heart. Our heart guides us because that's where God is. It's all here, in that feeling. And you start to, it's so subtle that it is easy to miss. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes there's a really strong gut feeling, and it comes on really powerfully. But most of the times it's really subtle. And I can't always say why, other than there's faith in that. Because if it were like, do this now, Nicole, it's like, there's not a lot of faith in that. That's just being told what to do. Our faith is guided in this kind of dance and surrender and a giving over of self in a lot of ways. And in a peaceful, calm moment, you can say, okay, I hear you. And I'm going to take this leap of faith, and I'm going to go this direction and kind of dip my toes in the surrender realm, because it's a little scary to listen to some guidance that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And usually it doesn't. Not really entirely. We don't know the outcome on the other side of it. We only know what we're being prompted in the moment to do in our heart in this subtle guidance. It's a practice in listening to that. And as you do, you get stronger because you go through it and you see the other side of it and you go, wow, that's profound change in my life right there. What I just listened to and then followed and did, the other side of that is profound change, profound difference. And it seemed like so small.
So what's an example of that? I mean, I can think of examples and in that, like you said, it's like what you think, and you can see there's cats in the, I've got cats and I've got dogs. I'm at my brother's place. We have 2 cats, 2 dogs, mine and theirs. And yeah, they're having fun back there. We were actually laughing about that earlier, right? About the fact that animals are they just go with it. You can't really control them. You can lock them in a closet, which isn't really fun for them and feel bad about it. I could lock them in another room, but it's just, it's so funny. Great lessons. What we can learn from them is they just do them. And anyway, but yeah, so for those of you watching the activity behind me, but no, in terms of creating this space of surrender, well, I think a lot of times we're not taught that. We're not taught we need to control. We've got to control our outcomes. We've got to have goals, drive towards that, have a plan, have a strategy. I'm a big believer in all those things in terms of having a plan, having a strategy. But then it's like, I think it was Joe Vitale who said in his Attractor Factor book, where he said, you set that all out and then you let it go. And that's the being open to the possibilities. And whenever I've been open to those possibilities, God surprises me with something way better than I can imagine, anything that I can conjure up. He's like, no, I've got something so much better. Yeah. But I'd love to hear some examples from you of how that's played out in your life. Yeah.
Oh gosh, there's so many. And which one to choose from? I'll give a couple quick, brief ones that were profound. I had someone coming over for a coaching session, and I was straightening up my home. It was a personal friend who was coming over, and I was coaching her that day, and getting it all organized and ready for her. And I was reading a book from Marcia Wieder, Making Your Dreams Come True. And the funny thing about the book is that it had been on my shelf for quite a while. I had read it years before, and that it was on my shelf. And I just thought, how books sometimes they call you and say, read me, and it really was. And so I pulled it off the shelf, and I had been reading it. And when I was straightening up my home, I just had this intuition, this prompting that I needed to leave the book out. And I had it on my dining room table, and so that when she came in, she'd see it. And that's all I knew. That's the only guidance that I had, that I was to leave it out so she could see it. So she came in, and she just made a beeline for the book. She saw the book and made a beeline for it, looked at it, and said, I know her. And I said, you know Marcia? And she says, yeah, I know her. And she goes, in fact, I have been praying about who to take to this conference in Los Angeles, and now I realize it's you. And I thought, it's so amazing. And from there, it's really quite profound, because I went to the conference. I met Debbie Dashinger, and who is really a profound change maker herself. And of course, had gone through the conference with Marcia, and met so many amazing people. I ended up doing a summit with Shanda, who had done a presentation there, who was amazing. Met so many incredible intuitive people through my summit that I interviewed. And out of that was the impetus to finally write this book. All that from just leaving a book on a table. That's all I got, right?
Wow.
It's really amazing. And then the love of my life came through on this very small prompting, and just watching a show, and I had a crush on this character, and he was adorable. I thought, I want my own. His name was Josh. His character is Josh. I want my own Josh. So I just need to find someone wonderful like this. Where is he? Where's my Josh? And then I was actually really sad. I turned the show off. I thought, I'm just watching people in love. I want to be in love, and I like hit me like a ton of bricks. Sign up for a site. It was a dating site, and I had been off that for so long, and I hadn't signed up for this one. It was Bumble, and how silly, and it was like, go do it now, And so I did it. I signed up for it. And long story short, it's been a year and a half with this incredible soul, the love of my life. And I've never had anything more beautiful in my life. That just 2 little promptings changed my life.
Wow.
So there it is. That's how I believe it works. These little miracles that end up being profound.
So now you mentioned about coaching, you work with, as an intuitive coach, people to bring that out in themselves, be able to, I know you don't prophesy future plans for people who want that psychic, tell them what their future is going to be like. You don't do that. And we talked about that, even before, about why you don't do that. But you do have, from an intuitive, maybe even actually define intuition from your perspective, what it means to you, and the inner guidance, where you're getting it from. And then, how do you work with clients to be able to develop that? So this show is all about transformation and leading that transformation in our own lives, leading that transformation in the world around us. And so the ability to tap into that guidance, that inner guidance, which is far better than, like we were saying, it's far better than anything we could make up ourselves.
It really is.
That's actually, I think, is one of the most important things. Even beyond our own theories, even beyond our own, I think even our ideas and our creativity comes a lot of times from there. We don't see it that way. We think it's our idea, but it's actually been gifted to us.
Absolutely.
So can you talk about that?
Absolutely. And I'll kind of preface that with, there are moments when I do get some things, I guess they would be future, moments where I get that. And I think what happens is it's almost like it gets dropped in, in the middle of the conversation, like, oh, okay, I got this. I see this for you. And it's like, for me, oftentimes I get it as almost like a vision. Well, it is a vision. I get like a picture. It's like this is somebody that's who's coming in, and this is what they look like. But I don't give like the whole story of this is where it's going to go. I'll get like a little glimpse. It's almost like the curtain opens for a minute. I might see something out there that's coming in, that's meant to come in. And that happens periodically, like dropped in, like, here you go. It's almost like a nugget of like, this is where it's going, but we don't know entirely and I will say this, the reason why I don't go into really painting a whole future picture is that though there are things that are going to be dropped on our path along the way, blessings that are meant for us, that there are there, but how they unfold is a co-creation. So that's created in the moment and by you, by God, working together in this guided kind of organic way where you're listening to the guidance, it's coming in, you're listening to the guidance, it's coming in, and but you have this idea of where you want to go, a goal, a dream, a wish, a hope, however you have it for you, vision board of things, which I think is all beautiful. And you're headed in that direction, but you're allowing the blessings to be dropped in, the guidance to be dropped in. So it's sort of it's a soft and malleable thing that you're creating along the way to where you want to go. And so that's being created, co-created, and the result of that is on the other side of it is something far more profound and beautiful than we could if we just charged forth and or said, oh, I know where this is going, because you really don't entirely, but you may get beautiful glimpses. And that's what I do see. And I think there's a part of us that sees it for ourselves as well that keeps us moving forward. So
Yeah, I love what you said there about God being a partner. Maybe we'll come back to that and talk about that partnership and co-creation versus this whole idea of destiny. So we'll earmark that to unpack that further. Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, so the intuition that comes in and how you feel that for yourself and what it is and what it looks like. I would say there isn't any one hard and fast rule for that. For everybody, I feel like there's something a little different in the way it comes in. And sometimes it comes in differently for the same person in different ways. So it could come in like a prompting, like leave that book, and I just felt really strongly to leave it. Again, it's subtle because it's not like God came down and, I just felt like, okay, I hear you. In this quiet moment, I hear you, leave the book. So I did. And often I'll hear it through a song, as music is really a beautiful part of my life. And I could be driving and my thoughts are going and I'm thinking and I'm having a difficult time and trying to work through something. And at one particular time, I was going through something really difficult, and I was driving and I was on my way to meet somebody to talk about it. And the song was on the radio, but it was irritating me a little bit because it was really low, but the high notes were coming through. And I was like, oh, you're interrupting my thoughts here, so I went to turn it off or change it. And I read the title of the song, and it was Praying. And I thought, well, that's an interesting title. I hadn't heard that song before. So I thought, all right, I'll listen to this. And the song came through, and I heard it, and it was like, really? It was everything I was going through, everything I heard in my thoughts and in my soul was being sung in that song while I was on my way to go talk to somebody. And it blew me away. So it comes in different forms through maybe somebody coming in and saying something to you, and you stop in your tracks and go, wow, did you just tell me what I needed to hear and give me the answer that I've been looking for? So it comes in so many different ways. And that's how God is just speaking to us. It's there and it's subtle, but it's always available to you.
How do we create that? It's always available. So how do we create that environment? You talk about getting quiet and hearing that voice. I know some people have worked at developing the ability to hear God's voice. Sean Bowles from Expression 58 is amazing at that. He wrote a book called Hearing God's Voice. And, and it's actually, if you haven't read it, it's a really, really good book. And it really, when I read it, I was like, wow, that's so amazing. Like he hears the specifics, numbers and like, different things for himself or for other people. And so they train themselves to do that. And you have something that you've done and it's come naturally, and maybe you've allowed it, so allowing, the surrendering this is a theme here in terms of even just allowing those things, those gifts to show up. But how do you help your clients to be able to develop that for themselves? What are some tips?
One of the things that seems to really help me, and I can't wait to read that book because I'd love to develop that more clear guidance and very, clear direction. I think that would be wonderful to hear it actually in a more concise way. But what the ways I allow this to come through and how they come through the guidance is, I'll go to prayer. I will go to prayer. And I am constantly, it's not like I always need to sit down and really pray, although I do that. I feel it's almost some form of meditation, and meditation can help that as well, that guidance to come through. But yeah, for prayer, that going into prayer does help me connect and stay connected, and that I can be doing anything and I can still be in that connection, that prayer. I just ask, God, please be with me here. Please guide me here. Be with me. Spirit, be with me. And I will say that in my mind, in my heart, throughout the day. And I give myself a pause and to hear it, before something I feel is important, or before I let my emotions go ahead of me too much. I ask God, please be with me. Please be with me. Speak through me. Be with me in this moment. Guide me here now. And it's just a second to take that pause to connect, so that I could go forward in a way that's guided. And from that connection is beautiful interaction, change, a knowing before I could even possibly know myself, a knowing that is something that's coming down the pike. And I didn't know that was coming, but I was prepared. So it's just a connection, and it's a conscious connection, because I think that is what faith is about. We do need to ask. It's there always, but I do feel, and I write this in my book, I feel God doesn't force himself on us, not usually. What he does is make himself available, and then we call that in, and we're guided from there.
Yeah.
And it's the asking. Bless you.
Thank you. I'm like,
That's quiet.
yeah. I was on mute.
Oh.
So, I love that. And there's just such a sweet spirit about you. And I think there's a humility that comes perhaps naturally to you in that, in terms of like when you're sitting with God and you're saying, okay, speak to me, and praying, there's a humility about that. You also mentioned about music.
Mm-hmm.
Music is an important part of your life. And I believe there's a sound, there's a frequency of, in that spiritual frequency, or that spiritual realm, that we can step into. So talk a little bit about how that's applied, how you've applied that in your life.
Oh, sure. Well, it's been very healing for me. And I know we talked briefly about animals being attracted to when we're speaking, and certain people that come in and listen. And whenever I'm a singer too. And whenever I would rehearse a song and work it through and sing, my dog would just come running in, and he would just lay at my feet. And no matter how loud the music was, no matter how loud the song was, he would just be there, and he would just sometimes he would just look at me, these little love eyes, I used to call them love eyes, and would just listen to me. And what I feel that is the voice coming up and out of the body, and the music that is being played. It's like there's an opening there. There's something opening about that. And music, in song, comes from a different part of the brain. And I believe that part is this creative self that is, it's like that's already automatically connected to another realm, the other side. And it comes through us. It's like this beautiful exchange of sound and connection and expression. And it's very healing. So that's also healed me a great deal through difficult times, and where my heart is maybe breaking at the time, I'm going through something very difficult, and I'll sing and I'll get that up and out. It's like a release, a cathartic way of expressing how I'm feeling, and it's up and out into the realm, sharing of my heart and my soul, and bearing that. And it's like a portal, opening that portal to, it's like the angels are attracted to that, to the music.
It actually reminds me of how music, because I love music as well. I don't sing per se, like I don't sing professionally, certainly. I sing by myself. And that's just, in the car or, whatever. I love music. And I remember, and I used to play musical instruments, so I have rhythm, tone, all that. there was a season for me that was a very difficult season. And I remember I went to this party and they were having this, there was this board game or something that, and you had to sing certain songs. It was almost, anyway, it's like trivia, song trivia type of thing. And you had to sing certain songs. And what was interesting is that I knew that I was not in the right headspace or heart space because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it with the tone was off. Like everything, it was almost like I lost my voice. I lost my ability to have that rhythm. And it struck me as so profound. And I thought, wow, what is it? I mean, I knew that I felt something was off, but now it's like so obvious to me that if I can't even carry a note or sing a song that I'm familiar with, that says something to me. And so I've noticed how it's played out for me in terms of that ability to resonate, to, you know, to even because it's a frequency, right? The way we all resonate. So it's interesting to say that reminded me of that.
I think that's why we when we do hear music or hear a song or gravitate toward, you know, particular singers, there's something that's coming out. It's not just the music and just their voice, and they may be very talented and all, but sometimes it's the voices that maybe are less refined or perfect, or, you know, but there's a soul coming out there. Yes. There is a life that you can hear and feel through the voice and the sound and the notes. There's a connection with that particular music or singer that's resonating with you.
Yes.
It's touching your heart and it's coming out in that way. It's a sharing of that inner self.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
So let's talk about, because you've been through some difficult times, and I know in your book you talk a little bit about the purpose of the struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe we can even tie in what we were going to circle back to about God as a partner and this idea of destiny. Because sometimes people think like, wow, is God wanting me to be in this struggle? Is this like, you know, he's punishing me? I remember one time journaling myself and, you know, who do I perceive God to be? And I felt like I was in this abusive relationship where, you know, I was getting hit all the time with all these things and thinking that it was God doing that to me because I somehow either did something wrong or I needed to learn something. Character building. I'm like, I have enough character. Like,
already, I know.
Give me a break, you know? And so talk a little bit about this process, because I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so it is a very complex thing. It's simple and complex. So I'll cover kind of a little bit of both of what's coming through here, and God, please guide me as I speak about this, because, you know, it's why it's a book, because it is so difficult and so complex. But I will say this, so I'm being asked to bring up the conversation that I had last night, and although it's a very difficult topic, a difficult subject, so there's a story in my book about a mother, and it's emotional for me, and I'm feeling emotional about it. Excuse me. So if you ask me to talk about this, please guide me through it. Sometimes I just need to connect right now. That she lost her son in a very tragic way, and it was difficult for me. She's a colleague of my sister's, and I didn't understand that. You know, I'm a mother myself, and that put me through so much pain and so much heartache too, because we didn't know where he was. We didn't know what happened to him. We were all waiting to hear, you know, what was happening. And I actually got a vision of where he was, and he wasn't alive. And how could God allow this? You know, why? You know, I've been through struggles and they were tough, but this didn't make sense to me. This is too much. You know, why these difficult things? And so I had a conversation with her last night, the mother, and it's been a little over a year now. And we got a lot of profound things coming through while we were having this conversation as to why this happened. And her son was 5 at the time. I was prompted just a couple days ago to finally reach out to her and talk to her about the fact that she's in my book. And when I sent her a text, she wrote me a text back and said, "You have impeccable timing. Today is my son's would be my son's 7th birthday." And I thought, well, no wonder he wanted me to talk to her now. It was a sign for both of us that we needed to make this connection. What came through last night was her son was an angel. He already had a mission. He knew he was going to take the mission before he came here. She and her son had an agreement that this was going to take place. And she and her son were going to make changes here in this earth for other children, change laws, change things so that this doesn't have to happen, and to make changes. So he came here as an angel, so did she. They knew each other before they came here. There was an agreement, and he had a purpose to fulfill. He is now there orchestrating what she's doing here, and he's in her, embodying her while she's going through this time of change. And she's just now coming out of kind of the space of so much grief. She's now coming to a place of some strength where she can start to make some changes and is going forward and making changes. Why I think I bring this story up, because it's so difficult, is that to God, the struggles are there to hone us, to shape us, to mold us, to release the layers of things that are in the way of who we really are, to build strength in us, to now be a blessing to the people around us. Because if we don't go through struggles, if we don't have things difficult that come upon us, we can't go to faith if everything's just glorious all the time. We just think, oh, it's us. We're perfect. What's wrong with you? Why is it so hard for you? It's hard for everybody. And we go through those struggles because it creates an empathy in us, a connection to others. We don't want to feel that pain, but we also, and when we're made in a way that we have this empathy, and I believe that we all are, when we're coming from this beautiful place of love. I've been there. Let me help you. I know what it feels like to struggle. Let me help you. Or let me just listen. And it's a knowing and understanding of struggle, and a wanting to make things better and understand how. And maybe it just means that our hearts are open to someone in pain because we know what that feels like, and we're guided to help them in some way through that. So our struggles are there to shape us. Sometimes our struggles are preordained. They're part of a mission for our souls to carry out and to make a change here. And because here is where both good and evil exist. And sometimes I feel like we're here to kind of go through the battle and be foot soldiers to take that on. And we're sent on missions often, and oftentimes our mission, as in a battle, in like a war, they're not pretty, they're tough, but we're not asked to only have faith in the good times, but have faith in the struggle, and that struggle has honed my faith to a great degree. It has made me stronger in that, because I needed him. I couldn't do it without him.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. You just said there at the end about needing him. I couldn't do it without him. I remember I used to say to, I was saying it to this one guy, and I said, God won't give you more than you can handle.
Yeah.
He said, well, then what do you need God for? And it just hit me. It was like, oh, that's a good point. It's a good point. If we do, so we sometimes are allowed, it's not even that he necessarily plans all these things. Like God says, I'm going to give him that,
Yeah.
that struggle to go through, but he allows it for our benefit, and that we'll actually lean on him, knowing that that's where he's the source, so that we can go through it. But yeah, it's like, wow, this it's great. It sounds good.
Yeah.
Won't give us more than we can handle, but then we wouldn't need him.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it does go to that breaking point. And before I'm a business breakthrough coach, right? Before the breakthrough, there's the breakdown, and there's the surrender in that breakdown. It's
Yeah.
very profound, very interesting.
Very. Yeah. The surrender really is the key right there. That because when we're going through a struggle, the constant question that comes up is why? Why
Yes,
do I have to go through this? Why are you doing this to me? Why?
which is
Uh,
resistance.
and it's oftentimes I don't hear the answer for that. You know, um, when I release the why, when I finally let go of the why, and when I go to, okay, God, help me through it. Just be there for me. Show me how to get through this. Take me
Yeah.
step by step. Just guide me through this. And then I begin to see God coming in and making profound changes in what's happening. And there is a release of that. There is definitely a release of self there. And then there's also this like, now we're on the fast track of getting through this together. I don't need to know the why anymore. I just need to know how with you I'm going to get through it.
Yeah.
And then, profoundly, the changes on the other side of that, the result on the other side of that struggle is always an improvement of where you were. It's always an improvement. I I can't pinpoint a time where the struggle didn't shape me to become something far better than I was before it ever happened.
Hmm. Yeah, I can't either. Yeah, some of the greatest struggles I've been through have been the greatest. Well, not even some, all of them have been the greatest opportunities and the greatest periods of growth in my life too.
Absolutely.
Personal growth, which then led to growth externally
Yeah.
as well. So this is great. So your book is coming out in June,
Yes.
and it's called Always and Forever with You. And they'll be able to find that on your website, right? So we'll have a link to your website, which is Jennifer Weber. It's WEBER lifecoach.com. So Jennifer Weber lifecoach.com. We'll make sure that's in the show notes as well, so people can listeners can find it there. And and so you do personal life coaching, working with people as well. You also have a full-time job that
I do.
you do as well. So this
Yeah.
is something that, and I think there's an encouragement in there for the people that are listening, that it's not like you have to quit your job and go do something entirely different and say, this is the path. Now, you may eventually do that,
Right.
but you have your career, and because of an experience, you're wanting to share that. You wrote a book alongside with, it's just like one step at a time, is I guess what I'm hearing in that.
Absolutely.
And it's
Yes. And I
great.
love that you brought that up. I love that you did, because it's scary for people to venture out into the passion of their life,
Yes.
their calling. And, I thought this too many times, like, do I need to quit my job? What am I going to do for money? And do I need to just jump in? And yes, there is eventually a leap of faith that will occur. But I do also believe that you can create that while it's like a transition, right?
Yes.
There is a period where you're doing both, because you're learning.
Yes.
You're honing who you are, you're honing your message, you're honing your craft, you're honing your passion, you're really getting clear on it. And that's the space that I'm in right now. It's like this dance, and it's a juggle, and but there will come a time where the leap of faith will make itself really clear, really known. It's like, one will just be really difficult to maintain, and the other will be growing in this direction. And again, that's all a part of surrender. And I constantly ask God, when the time is right, I know you will tell me. I know you will I know you will let me know. But this thing that I love, this passion that is a part of me, this wanting to bring this out and into the world, and having this process out there so people can tap into that power of who they are and the strength and God coming in. That won't leave me alone, and neither will most people's passions and loves. Won't leave them alone, and sometimes it gets bothersome. But I said, you know what? Embrace that. Embrace the nagging. Embrace the like, oh God, why are you keep pushing me in this direction? And I'm just trying to have a job here, and I'm just trying to work. Let me just do that. I'm busy enough. But it's okay. Let the nagging persist and just kind of go, all right, I'll just dip my toes in there and see what that feels like. And just kind of, embrace being a little ridiculously overwhelmed and just go, okay, I'm here. I'm doing both things. I'm doing everything I love, and I'm supporting myself and my kids. And you find the energy. It just happens. You find the energy, you find the time. Little scraps of it here and there, and it all just comes together, and it works. You will be okay. You'll survive it, and you'll open up a whole new world for yourself.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a one or the other.
Yes.
That time will come.
Yeah. Well, and you'll be better for it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, awesome. Well, Jennifer, thank you for sharing today with us, and I'm excited for your book coming out. I've read it. I know it's amazing. Your story in there is beautiful, and I think it will really touch people's hearts and encourage them in their own journey. So thank you for that. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. I hope that you have been inspired, literally in spirit, inspired by what Jennifer has shared here, to surrender, to be open, to allow for the possibilities, to hear those promptings, pay attention to that voice and those promptings of that inner guidance that lead you forward in your life every single day. It's not about, and what I also heard from Jennifer is like, she prays throughout the day. It's like having a conversation, an ongoing conversation with God. It's not just at set times during the day and then you're off and doing your own thing. This is an ongoing process. I know it is for me. I can hear that in Jennifer, that it is for her as well. So I encourage you to do that. And that just will help your process of transformation and your ability to help transform others and the world around you be that much more rich and effective. So I encourage you to do that. We look forward to hearing your stories. You can find us, as I said earlier, you can find us on Facebook at Leaders of Transformation. Twitter is Leaders Podcast, Instagram, Leaders Transformation. Or you can go to leaderstransformation.com. We've got all the show notes. Everything's going to be available for you there. So you can connect with Jennifer, a link to her book. But we'd also love to hear your stories, so you can share them with us there as well. So we thank you. We appreciate you being here today and look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Leaders of Transformation real soon.